There's something eerie about the quiet before dawn. That gray zone between night and morning when even the city holds its breath. I'd always loved that stillness, until the morning it turned on me. Harper's smartwatch buzzed first. A soft, nearly imperceptible vibration on the nightstand beside me. Just enough to stir the air, not enough to wake her. I wouldn't have noticed if I wasn't already half awake. It was instinct, really, the kind of peripheral noise your brain logs even when your eyes are still closed. I cracked one eye open, just barely. The watch lit up. For 12 a.m. Red heart icon. Repeats every Thursday. That was it. No label, no note, no gentle morning yoga reminder like I'd seen before. Just that red heart. I stared at the screen until it dimmed again. And even then, I didn't move. I just laid there with my eyes on the ceiling, trying to convince myself I hadn't seen what I saw. Trying to pretend my stomach hadn't just turned. But something about that heart didn't sit right. Harper stirred next to me, pulling the comforter tighter under her chin like she was burrowing away from the world. I listened to the rhythm of her breathing. Even slow. Maybe real sleep. Maybe not. I didn't say a word. Instead, I slipped out of bed, padded barefoot to the kitchen, and started making coffee. Our old French press hissed like it always did, filling the space with the comfort of routine. Something to keep my hands busy while my mind ran laps. I told myself I was being paranoid, that people schedule weird alarms all the time. Maybe it really was for yoga. Maybe she'd just changed the label. Maybe I'd forgotten she even had one. But then her tablet lit up on the counter. I hadn't touched it. Didn't even know it was still plugged in. The notification flashed quickly, then disappeared, but not before I caught the name. Adela Hotel payment confirmed. 4:41 a.m. $162.74. Boutique Hotel downtown. I recognized the name immediately. It's one of those expensive places tucked between two art galleries. All minimalist wood and exposed brick and pressed eucalyptus leaves on the pillows. Harper and I had walked past it once during the Fremont Art Walk. She made a joke about staying there for a staycation someday. Said it was too pretty for real life, like a hotel designed for people with secret lives. Back then, I laughed. Now, not so much. I picked up her tablet, hands suddenly clammy. The notification was already gone, but the charge was still there in the wallet app. Same time as the alarm. The sequence hit me all at once. Buzz, payment, silence. Like a pattern. Like something practiced. I didn't go digging deeper. Not right away. Instead, I just stood there staring at the steam rising from my coffee, listening to the ticking of the kitchen clock. Every sound in the room felt amplified, like the whole house was waiting for me to do something. But I didn't. Not yet. Instead, I did what I always do when I get that itch in the back of my skull. That low buzz of suspicion I can't shake. I opened our shared cloud album. Nothing new in the main folders. Last upload was from our weekend hike. Harper smiling in front of a trail sign, cheeks flushed from the cold. I remember that day. She'd been off somehow. Kept checking her phone. Kept pulling away from my arm when I tried to wrap it around her shoulders. Back then, I brushed it off as stress. This time, I tapped into the hidden subfolders. The ones we don't use anymore. The ones buried under layers of default titles like uploads_2021_archive and miscellaneous device. And there it was. A single image. Harper in a hotel bathroom, wrapped in a white robe, steam clinging to the mirror behind her. The robe loosely knotted, enough to suggest, not reveal. Her head tilted slightly, expression soft. Flushed cheeks. Just showered. Behind her, embroidered in pale gold, was the unmistakable logo of the Adela. She didn't smile in the photo, just stared at her own reflection like she was sizing herself up, like she was someone else for a moment, someone untethered. I stared at the photo longer than I meant to. It wasn't overtly S**Zool. It wasn't even scandalous, not technically, but it was intentional. It wasn't for marketing. It wasn't for yoga. It wasn't for me. And the timestamp? Thursday. 4:59 a.m. Nearly perfect alignment. Alarm. Payment. Photo. That night, I brought it up casually, or at least I tried to. We were sitting on the couch, each of us on opposite ends, watching some reality show she liked but never really paid attention to. I turned the tablet toward her. Screen lit up with the hotel charge. "What's this?" I asked, neutral voice, no edge. She blinked, leaned forward like she hadn't expected me to notice. Her eyes darted between the tablet and my face. "Oh my God!" she laughed. "That stupid event." "Event?" I said, still flat. "Yeah, for work. We were testing a new marketing angle for boutique campaigns. They gave us access to the Adela for mock-ups. It's like this whole rebranding thing. The robe photo was part of it." She smiled. "You didn't think I was actually staying there, right?" I didn't answer. Instead, she reached over and grabbed the tablet, flipping through other photos like she could somehow prove the context existed. "See?" she said. "Look at this one. Lisa took a fake room service pic. We were goofing around. Half of them are deleted already." I watched her work. She was smooth, quick, like she'd rehearsed this version of events. She kept talking, something about client feedback and influencer trends, but I wasn't listening anymore. I was watching the way her eyes flickered too fast, how her smile lingered half a second too long, how she overcorrected every detail like she was filling in blanks she thought I might ask about later. She ended the whole thing with a laugh. "You're going full conspiracy theorist on me, babe. Too many Netflix documentaries. I should set an alarm for you. Reminder, chill." I laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was easier than calling her out. She got up to brush her teeth, still chuckling, muttering something about how dramatic I could be sometimes. When she was out of the room, I picked up my phone, opened a new hidden folder on my drive, and uploaded the hotel receipt, the robe photo, the alarm screech *T, and a screen recording of her Sync smartwatch app, just in case she wiped it later. I labeled the folder Wednesday Noise, because that's what she always called it. Her early Thursday routine, that little midweek cleanse, she said, helped her reset. "I know it's weird," she'd say, tugging her leggings higher, slipping into sneakers at 4:30 in the dark, "but that class clears my head. Don't wait up. It's just some Wednesday noise." Now, I wasn't so sure what she was clearing, and I was done brushing it off. I didn't know what I was looking for yet, or where this was going. But I knew one thing with painful clarity. Whatever was happening in the quiet hours before dawn wasn't just yoga. And from this moment forward, I wasn't going to pretend anymore. After Harper fell asleep, I sat in the living room with the lights off, phone in hand, staring into the dim glow of that new folder, Wednesday Noise. For files sat inside, perfectly aligned like breadcrumbs I hadn't meant to follow. But now that I'd started, I couldn't stop. I wasn't even angry yet. That would come later. What I felt now was exposure, like I'd walked into a scene already in progress, and everyone knew the script but me. I opened the alarm screech *T again. 4:12 a.m. Red heart. Not just early. Intentional. Loving. It wasn't a skull or a dumbbell or some neutral icon. She chose a heart. Every Thursday. That detail mattered more the longer I stared at it. And that's when the loop began. Not a new one, no, this loop had been forming in the background for months. I just ignored it. But now, with context sharpened by suspicion, I started replaying everything. Every seemingly innocent moment reloaded in my brain like corrupted files from a hard drive. Her yoga classes. She only started those after the new year. One Thursday, she just got up before dawn and said she wanted to get in touch with her body again. "Hot yoga downtown," she told me, pulling on her hoodie, hair already tied up. I remember blinking blearily from the pillow and saying something dumb like, "You're crazy." Back then, I said it with a smile. Now, not so much. It became her ritual. Every Thursday. Never missed one. Even when she had the flu in March, she still went. "Sweating it out helps," she claimed. She'd return home just before 6 a.m., flush with color, humming some tune under her breath, eyes bright. I used to think, God, she's so disciplined. Now, I wonder who she was humming for. The perfume came next. I asked about it when I smelled it on her collar one night. Soft, floral, expensive. Definitely not her usual scent. "Oh," she said breezily. "One of the girls at yoga got me hooked. This light good for sweating." "Gym perfume," I repeated, confused. She laughed. "Trust me, the hot guys at class aren't complaining." She meant it as a joke. I laughed too, but my laugh felt too loud, too forced. It was the kind of moment that should have pinged something in me, but I brushed it off like I always did. That was my mistake. Every warning came disguised as a throwaway line. And then there was her phone. Harper wasn't a secrecy freak. If anything, she was casual with her devices. But I started noticing subtle shifts. Messages she'd delete without opening. Entire threads wiped instead of single texts. Notifications muted. The screen always face down when we had dinner. Once I saw it buzz. I wasn't even trying to look. But the preview flashed for a split second before disappearing. "Can't wait." That's all it said. No name, just those two words. It burned into my memory like a match held too close to the skin. She didn't see me notice. Or maybe she did and just didn't care. I told myself it was a friend. Maybe her sister. Maybe someone from work. Maybe anything but what I feared. It's amazing what your brain will do to preserve comfort. I didn't want to know the truth. Not then. But the car seat, that was the one I couldn't let go of. She drives a compact SUV. Not flashy, but she loves it. I rarely use it, but the few times I've driven it, maybe twice in the past few months, I had to adjust the seat. Not just a little, a lot, like someone with longer legs had been driving. I mentioned it once, jokingly. "Did your yoga instructor borrow your car?" She didn't laugh, just blinked and said, "You're taller than me, Mason, right?" "Sure." But even now, sitting on the couch, I could recall the exact inch the seat was pushed back. The mirror slightly angled down, like someone had looked at themselves before stepping out. Then there was the dream. Harper talks in her sleep sometimes. Not often, usually just murmurs. But there was one night, maybe early April, when she stirred suddenly, sat up halfway in bed, and whispered loud enough to wake me. "I dreamt I was free," she said, not looking at me, just out into the dark. Then she laid back down and didn't say another word. At the time, I assumed she meant something existential, free from stress, deadlines, pressure. I told her it sounded nice. But now I wonder, was she dreaming of me not being there? Was I the thing she needed freedom from? I sat there, haunted by all these fractured moments, stringing them together like notes on a corkboard in some cheap detective show. Patterns started forming. Muted phone, deleted messages, Thursday alarms, hotel bills, one unreadable dream, and underneath it all a quiet erosion, a distance that hadn't been loud enough to name until now. Even S*X had changed. We weren't broken, not completely, but she'd become restless. Like every time I touched her, her mind was somewhere else. Like she was performing rather than participating. And I didn't say anything because I thought maybe I was the one drifting. Maybe it was the stress. Maybe we were just tired. But no, I was just background noise. A prop in a life she'd carefully curated for appearance. Not connection. When did I become that? The man who shows up, pays the bills, makes the coffee, asks about her day, and gets the highlight reel version in return. Never the raw cut. We used to be loud together. Laughing, bickering, making fun of dumb ads on TV. But now we barely touched that side of things. She'd come home late, kiss my cheek absently, and slip into the bedroom. Sometimes she wouldn't even say goodnight. God, I remember this one Tuesday, just a normal Tuesday. She came home glowing. Her skin radiant, hair slightly mussed like she'd driven with the windows down. She walked into the kitchen and said, "I feel amazing." I asked what happened. She said it was a breakthrough day at work. Now I think I know what she really meant. I opened the photo again, the one in the robe. This time, I zoomed in on the corner of the mirror. You could just barely make out the edge of a second towel on the hook behind her. 2 robes, maybe, or maybe nothing. But I couldn't unknow what I knew. Everything in my body buzzed with awareness now. Not just paranoia, awareness. Of her silences, her choices, her calculated language. Harper hadn't slipped. She had constructed this. planned it, scheduled it down to the minute. And I was the audience member watching the show with blinders on. That night I didn't sleep. I laid next to her with my eyes wide open, staring at the ceiling, counting the seconds between each breath she took. She looked peaceful, like someone who had nothing to hide. But I knew better now. I knew enough to stop guessing and start watching. Next Thursday I wouldn't be sleeping. There's a certain stillness to betrayal before it confirms itself. That awful, charged pause between suspicion and proof. It's like the wind right before a storm. You know something's coming, you just don't know how bad it's going to be. I wasn't going to live in doubt anymore. I wanted to believe I was wrong. God, I wanted to be wrong so badly that I almost didn't follow through. But after weeks of watching Harper's patterns calcify, the Thursday alarms, the disappearing messages, the car seat adjusted too far back, I couldn't leave it in the abstract. I needed something real, something irrefutable. So I gave her a gift, a subtle one, a safety tracker, a small tile-sized GPS tag I tucked inside the lining of her canvas tote. She carries that thing everywhere, to work, to brunch, to yoga, supposedly. I told her it was part of a new home security rebate through our insurance. Free upgrade for couples, I said. She smiled and told me I was sweet. I smiled back and lied through my teeth. The next part was harder. Timing it right. I waited until Friday. She always left later on Fridays. Said she used the day to ease into the weekend. I kissed her goodbye that morning. She was wearing that new white puffer jacket she swore she didn't overpay for. She smelled like that gym perfume again. I'll be working from the co-op space most of the day, she said, slipping her AirPods in. I nodded. She left at 4:19 a.m. I gave her a 5-minute head start, then grabbed my jacket, my phone, and headed outside. I'd rented one of those electric scooters, the kind tourists use, and rode it through cold, wet alleyways, staying low, out of the main roads, tracking her dot on the GPS like it was a heartbeat. At 4:39, her tracker stopped moving. She was at a building I didn't recognize right away. Some co-working space built on top of a bar. Stylish, industrial, quiet at this hour. From the top floor, you could see the bay. It was the kind of place where ideas are pitched over coffee and affairs are negotiated over cocktails. I parked the scooter a block away and took the elevator of the adjacent parking garage to the top. The view gave me a clear vantage of the rooftop patio across from the co-working building. Lights were on inside. Dim. Soft yellow 2-int asterisk mate for an office. I watched. For 44. She stepped onto the rooftop. She wasn't alone. The man with her was tall. Dark hair. Confident posture. And very familiar. Tyler. I knew him. Not personally, but enough. He worked at Harper's firm. I'd seen him in pictures from her corporate events, shaking hands with executives, always wearing that same smug grin that didn't quite reach his eyes. The kind of guy who never forgets to button the right buttons but always forgets he's not the main character in other people's stories. He reached for her hand. Not fast, not like someone making a mistake. It was slow, familiar, practiced. She leaned into him. His hand slid down to her waist, and they stood there like it was the most natural thing in the world. Like the skyline, the hour, the silence was made just for them. She rested her forehead against his chest. And then they kissed. Not quick. Not tentative. Deliberate. Long. I froze. Time slowed down in the worst way, every second stretching like elastic. My lungs stopped cooperating. I didn't look away, though I wanted to. I kept the phone steady, filming from behind the concrete divider, zooming in slowly so the footage was crisp, time-stamped, undeniable. I wasn't documenting a mistake. I was documenting a routine. They stayed on that rooftop for maybe 10 minutes, talking, touching, occasionally pausing to look out at the city like they were sharing something sacred. When they finally turned to head inside, Harper was smiling in a way I hadn't seen in months. Carefree, unburdened. That was what hit hardest. She never looked like that with me anymore. I waited until they disappeared into the building before I left. Back home, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't even play back the video right away. I just sat on the edge of the bed for a long time, jacket still zipped, hands numb. I opened the building's website on my laptop. It took some digging, but I found the internal tenant portal, meant for members to manage their shared workspaces. Harper had told me about it months ago, how they'd use her badge for dual entry if she was with a client. I reset her password. It worked. I downloaded the entry logs. They confirmed everything. Thursday, 4:20 a.m. Access granted. Harper Sullivan plus Tyler R. Green. Joint entry. Private meeting room reservation. 4:20 to 6:45 a.m. I sat back, staring at the screen. This wasn't a suspicion anymore. This wasn't a gut feeling or a weird alarm or a perfume bottle or a car seat. This was data. Documentation. They were meeting regularly. Early. Quietly. I printed the entry logs. Labeled the folder. Then I watched the video again. This time as a witness, not a husband. Their kiss was the final nail. But everything else. Her posture, her timing, her ease with him. That was the part that broke me. They looked like they'd done this before. A lot. I remembered how she used to look at me like that. I remembered road trips where she couldn't keep her hands off me at red lights. I remembered her whispering secrets in the dark, laughing into my shoulder. I remembered the way she used to say my name. Now I was just someone she moved around. Background filler in a life she'd already edited me out of. When she got home that afternoon, I was calm. She kissed me on the cheek, barely touching. Said something about how her client session went long. I nodded, offered to order Thai for dinner. She smiled. That night we watched a movie together. Something dumb, light, predictable. She leaned her head against my shoulder halfway through, and I let her. I didn't move, because part of me was still mourning. Not her. Not even what she did. I was mourning who I used to be in her life. Who I thought I still was. People think betrayal comes with screaming. Plates thrown, voices raised, a cinematic unraveling. But when you've already grieved the truth in silence, the confrontation doesn't feel explosive. It feels like paperwork. By the time Harper walked through the front door that evening, I had already transferred half our savings into a separate account. I'd already printed a full dossier, screensh *TS, timestamps, building logs, hotel receipts, rideshare details, all alphabetized and sealed inside a plain manila envelope. Dinner was already made. I set the table for two like I always did. Cloth napkins, candles, her favorite ceramic plates we bought in Pike Place Market 3 summers ago. I made her favorite pesto pasta with sun-dried tomatoes and goat cheese. The irony wasn't lost on me. When she walked in, she paused, took in the scene like it was foreign. "This is cozy," she said. I smiled. Felt like doing something normal. She smiled back, slowly, like her body was waiting for a catch. Then she set her bag down and kissed me. More than usual. Lingering. Almost guilty. I kissed her back. The dining room felt warm. Not emotionally, physically. The candles flickered between us, casting long shadows across the hardwood. The envelope sat at the far end of the table, innocuous, sandwiched between two glasses of wine. It was there but not spoken for. We ate like strangers mimicking a routine. She made small talk about a new client pitch. I nodded, asked follow-up questions. She was animated, more than usual, overcompensating, maybe. I let her fill the space. About halfway through, she started to relax. That's when I slid the envelope across the table. She didn't notice at first. She kept talking about office politics, about a team member being too sensitive. But when the envelope bumped into her wine glass, she paused. "What's this?" she asked, brow furrowed. "Open it," I said. The second she saw her smartwatch alarm screensh *T, her posture changed. She sat upright, fingers curling slightly. She flipped through the contents quickly at first, then slower. The photo from the hotel, the access logs, the ride history, the video still from the rooftop kiss timestamped, the name Tyler Green typed in bold under building reservations, a copy of our bank statement with the Adela highlighted. And then, at the very bottom, a single sheet, the preliminary divorce paperwork I'd already filled out. The silence stretched so long I could hear the faint hum of the fridge in the kitchen. When she looked up, her face was blank. Not shocked, Not tearful. Just calculating. I can explain, she said finally. I nodded. I'm sure you can. Her eyes flicked down again to the documents. You've been tracking me? No, I said calmly. You've been leaving a trail. I just stopped ignoring it. She pushed the envelope aside, like it physically disgusted her. You went through my personal accounts? No, I said again. These are public logs. Shared devices. Synced apps. You made it all very easy. A long silence. You've clearly made up your mind, she said, reaching for her wine. Her hand trembled slightly. I have. She stared into the glass like she was trying to scry the next step. So what now? You stay in the guest room tonight. Tomorrow we talk logistics. I've already contacted a lawyer. I'll send over copies of everything. She blinked. Just once. You're not even going to give me a chance to lie again? I interrupted, but gently. No, Harper. I'm not doing the denial and deflect routine. That part's over. She exhaled, slow and controlled, then looked around the room like she was seeing it for the first time. Her gaze landed on the photo wall. Us on the Oregon coast, the snow trip, our first apartment's broken sink. She didn't cry. That almost made it worse. When she finally spoke again, her voice was quieter. How long have you known? Long enough, I said. But the rooftop sealed it. A flicker of something crossed her face. Recognition? Shame? Or just the collapse of plausible deniability? She finished her wine in one slow swallow, then stood up and walked into the hallway without a word. I listened to her footsteps fade up the stairs, listened to the creak of the guest room door closing, listened to the quiet. It was the most honest moment we'd had in months. I didn't follow her. I didn't throw anything. I just sat there at the table, staring at the pool of melted candle wax, letting the silence settle like dust after an implosion. The rest of the night, I stayed up. I opened a new Drive folder titled Departure and started uploading everything. Digital receipts, email backups, the screen recording of the GPS tracker. I included a list of assets we own jointly. I itemized our investments, house equity, vehicle value. I scheduled an appointment with a mediator and added it to a private calendar. This wasn't revenge. This was reclamation. At around 1:12 a.m., I walked past the guest room. The door was cracked open just enough to see that she was awake, curled up under the covers, scrolling through her phone, probably searching for damage control strategies, probably looking up what to do when you get caught. I didn't stop. Instead, I went into our bedroom, my bedroom now, and changed the Wi-Fi password. I removed her access from our shared cloud and locked down my accounts. I took her thumbprint off my phone and deleted our couple's budgeting app. By 2 a.m., she was a guest in the life she used to share. It was quiet, surgical. No raised voices. No begging. No melodrama. Just clean, administrative grief. The kind you don't process with tissues, you process it with spreadsheets and backups and notarized forms. At 2:13 a.m., I got into bed alone for the first time in 6 years and didn't even pretend to cry. I didn't have to, because some tea. 2 days later, I stood under crystal chandeliers in a room full of expensive dresses, tuxedo rentals, and perfectly curated lies. Harper's firm was hosting a charity gala, a black tie event. Our biggest night of the year, she used to say. I was always her plus one. The dutiful husband who smiled politely, nodded through jargon, and held her purse while she networked. This year, she assumed I wouldn't come. She didn't know I had RSVP'd using her old assistant's email. Didn't know I'd rented a tux the morning after she moved into the guest room. Didn't know I'd been waiting for the moment when the lights would be brightest. Not for revenge, but for clarity. I arrived 10 minutes before the presentation began. The ballroom was already humming with energy. Polite laughter, clinking glasses, and the low thrum of string instruments tuning up. Servers in white gloves moved through the crowd with champagne flutes. People I barely recognized smiled at me, doing double takes, unsure if I belonged. Then I saw her. Harper stood near the bar in a navy dress that hugged her ribs and fell perfectly around her hips, the kind of dress she used to ask me to zip up. She was laughing at something Tyler had just said. He stood beside her in a fitted black suit, drink in hand, his other resting casually on her lower back. They looked rehearsed, polished, but even from across the room, I could see the way her eyes darted, scanning, always scanning. She wasn't relaxed. She was monitoring. She didn't expect me to walk up, so I did. I crossed the marble floor slowly, deliberately, like I had all the time in the world. When I reached them, Tyler was mid-sentence. Harper caught me first, her smile dropping a full second before she tried to recover it. "Mason," she said, voice tight. "I didn't know you." "Tyler," I said, cutting in. "Do you mind if I steal a minute?" He blinked. Sure. Of course." I didn't wait for Harper to respond. I pulled a folded sheet of paper from my inner jacket pocket. It wasn't dramatic, no grand reveal. Just a printed timeline. Bullet points. Clean font. Labeled February 15th to June 9th. I handed it to Tyler. He hesitated, then looked down. His brow furrowed by the second line. Hotel bookings. Building access logs. Joint badge swipes. Screensh *TS of Harper's calendar. Video stills. Ride logs. Bank charges. And one final item at the bottom. June 9th, rooftop bar. 4:44 a.m. Footage timestamped. Tyler looked up, his face drained of color. He glanced at Harper, then at me, then back to the list. He didn't say a word, didn't ask how I got it, didn't try to explain, because he knew. The whole room hadn't gone silent. Not yet, but the people near us had noticed. Conversations slowed, heads tilted. The violinist on stage hit a wrong note and kept playing. Harper stepped forward, her voice barely above a whisper. "Mason, can we talk about this somewhere else?" "No," I said calmly. "We're not moving this. Not this time." She glanced around, eyes wide, not with guilt, with fear. Fear of exposure. Tyler folded the paper in half and tucked it into his jacket. Then he did something I didn't expect. He turned around and walked away. Just like that. No defense. No apology. No backward glance. I stood there for another second, then stepped aside. The weight of it landed fast. The buzz of whispers. The way Harper stood frozen, hands clenched at her sides, eyes blinking rapidly like she was willing herself not to shatter. The silence from her colleagues. Some looked away. Some didn't. The orchestra resumed a moment later, but the music sounded distant, like it was underwater. The gala moved on, but Harper didn't. She turned to me, jaw tight. "Was this your plan all along? To humiliate me?" "No," I said. "My plan was to give you space to tell the truth. You chose not to." She opened her mouth, closed it. I could see the narrative unraveling behind her eyes, the spinning of stories she'd prepared, excuses she'd practiced. But none of it mattered now. Not here. Not in front of cameras and sponsors and clients who'd just watched her lover walk away with a timeline of infidelity in his pocket. "I don't know who you are anymore," she whispered. I nodded. "That makes two of us." Then I walked past her, weaving through clusters of strangers in gowns and tailored suits, out the doors and into the cold night. No one followed. Outside, the wind had picked up, tugging at the lapels of my tuxedo. I stopped at the edge of the parking lot, taking it all in. The silence, the city lights, the strange, aching freedom. I didn't feel powerful. I didn't feel vindicated. I felt finished. Not with grief. That would linger, but with pretending. With spinning my own version of a life that wasn't real anymore. Back home, I poured a glass of water, sat at the kitchen table, and opened my laptop. I sent one email, subject line, "Summary of findings." I attached a PDF labeled, "For Family." Inside were 4 pages. No embellishments, just bullet point facts. The hotel charges, the video stills, the timeline of deception. A brief statement confirming our separation and pending divorce. No rage, no blame, just clarity. I sent it to my parents, to hers, to her sister, who once told me Harper got bored easily. I copied my lawyer and moved the file into my departure archive. By 11:04 p.m., I had done more in 4 hours than I had in 4 years of holding my tongue. I didn't celebrate. I just changed into sweatpants, washed my face, and laid on the couch. The TV stayed off. I didn't need noise anymore, because for the first time in months, the silence didn't feel like something I had to explain away. Felt earned. While closing joint accounts, I found a reservation for a secluded cabin, Harper's name, but someone else's initials. C.R. The smart lock showed 2 entries. Hers at 9:45 p.m. His at 3:08 a.m. In the drawer, a silk scarf embroidered with those same initials and a bottle of men's cologne. Cole Rivers. Her ex Tyler was just the surface crack. Cole? He was the rupture. I was never her first choice, just the safest. I finalized the divorce and left Seattle. Moved to a quiet lake town in Oregon. Sent one final email to both families, evidence attached, no drama. I adopted a dog named Rusty. I joined a weekend writing group. I run every morning now, not to escape, but to breathe. Healing, I've learned, isn't about forgiving betrayal. It's about reclaiming your life. What began with a hidden alarm ended with peace. I'm not a victim. I'm awake.